Hello, this is Chat UTD and this is my preview of the Community Shield today against Man City. Before we get into that, I want to talk about the biggest problem at Man United, the reason this channel started in the first place. We live in a world where increasingly I think people want to put themselves and others into boxes and categories, woke or awake, Tory or Labour, left, right, and in football terms, Ten Hag in, Ten Hag out. Back in the day, Jose in, Jose out, Ollie in, Ollie out, Ineos in, Ineos out. And I tend not to really categorise myself in that I would look at each individual situation and base my opinion on my values, beliefs and experiences and form it from that. Sometimes I share those opinions like on here. And I'm not always right. And I'm open to challenge. One exception in terms of categorising myself is that I am categorically, emphatically and unashamedly Glazers out. I hate them, I despise them, they're scum, they've ruined our football club. They're incompetent, negligent, arrogant, they have no redeeming qualities, no endearing features at all. It's a touchy subject, but I'd go as far to say that apart from the Munich air crash, they're the worst thing that's happened to Manchester United, based on my knowledge of the club and the history of the club. And you could say that born out of the tragedy of Munich was an even greater spirit than the spirit that was there in the first place. A defiance to come back, a pride in who we were, are, and to become. And Jimmy Murphy encompassed that when the FA suggested maybe United might need to close as a club. Then he said, "Over my dead body, we'll never die." So people dying and an air crash is not even in the same ballpark, of course, as having shit owners. But something developed from Munich. Nothing has developed from the Glazers other than the club basically going to wreck and ruin. As I say, no redeeming features about them. And a year ago I started this channel because I was doing my own editing, looking at contradictory articles as to who was going to own the club, whether the Glazers were going to stay, what was going to happen, and then needed to vent. And okay, I haven't got loads of viewers, but just sitting in front of a screen and kind of putting my views out there certainly helped me. But they're still here, and I think that seems to have almost just been forgotten about, and it's gone very quiet. There doesn't seem to be any Glazers out movement anymore, really. And for the very few viewers I've got, I want to keep it in the consciousness of people that they are the biggest problem at this club. The damage they're still doing just by being there is massive, but their legacy damage is astronomical, and Ineos are seeing that now. And the transfer window is an indicator of that. I believe one of the biggest reasons we haven't been able to get people in or out is that the takeover process took so long because of the Glazers' greed and because of their self-interest. In September of 2022, Sir Jim Ratcliffe said he wouldn't mind a dabble at United, and that came on the back of widespread protests and very well attended protests, particularly the game against Liverpool in August of that year. And 2 months later, the club, the Glazers, whoever, announced that they were open to strategic investment and or a full takeover of the club. And no one can convince me that during that period Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the Glazers hadn't spoken to each other, because I'm absolutely sure that they had. So I believe this could have been done 18 months ago, certainly a year ago. So a year of our development has been wasted and ruined by them. Ineos coming in at the time that they did, mid-season, meant that last summer transfer window was scuppered. We never do anything in January anyway, but there was no chance we could do anything because of the ongoing situation. And now this summer has been scuppered because they haven't had time to put the people in place that they need to put in place because people are on gardening leave. And I still think Ineos could have done an awful lot better than what they've done and acted more swiftly. But so much of this is on the Glazers and their greed and their self-interest. And of course, another big issue for Ineos, as they probably metaphorically and literally open doors and go, Jesus Christ, this is a bigger mess than I thought it was. One of the skeletons in the closet is the players that are on crazy wages based on decisions made by people that the Glazers have employed who were out of their depth and didn't know what they were doing, like Ed Woodward, John Murtough, Richard Arnold. So the legacy damage is through the roof, and it's got a massive effect on us. So I've spoken before about these 3 stages I think Ineos are going to have to go through to bring United back to success. Stage 1, clear the decks, get the rot out, get a more likeable group of players that are going to run through walls for you, that might not be the best, but you start to get some semblance of an ethos and a culture. And maybe hopefully you're finishing top 6 every year, but you're finishing top 6 every year and you're progressing and you can see chinks of light in terms of what they're trying to achieve. Stage 2 is that there's a very definable style of play that supersedes the manager, that there's young, hungry players of high quality who play good attacking football, and we start to finish consistently in the top 3 or 4 and we win some cups. And stage 3 is we compete for Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues. I don't think we've even started that process yet. I think the stage we're in is the hangover stage, where all the toxins have yet to leave the system. And this summer was, I thought, a chance for us to start to do that, to get those toxins out, but they haven't been able to. And largely it circles back around to the same thing, because the players, the toxins that need to go, they're untouchable. And the Glazers, the biggest toxin, are still there. How does this relate to the Community Shield? Well, it massively relates to the Community Shield, because I believed at the start of the summer the Community Shield was going to be a watershed moment in the summer, where you go, right, on that day, by that day, we will have 3 or 4 signings in, we'll have cleared some out. The players that are going to form the main part of the team will have come back to training and be part of the work that's been done in the pre-season. Ten Hag will have a chance to work on shape and team formation, and we'll go into the game with optimism, with a new lease of life, cleared of some of the rot, and give City a competitive game as a dummy run going into the Fulham game on Friday next week. And it couldn't be further from that. Bruno, Mainu, Martinez, Garnacho, they've all just come back to training in the last week. The 2 signings we've got, one's injured and one, Xerxes, has just come back to training and also looks like he's probably just going to be a squad player. Shaw's the other one who's come back late, and surprisingly, he's injured. So today, according to Ten Hag, the back four may well be Harry Amas, Reece Bennett, Johnny Evans and Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I've championed the idea of playing young players. I'd rather see young players in there than the same old faces that have failed 7-8 times. However, putting 2 youngsters in the defence with each other against an in-form, fit, full pre-season behind him Erling Haaland could be a recipe for disaster. So I'll be watching through my fingers today, because it could get very messy. What are the implications of that? Not much really. It's a one-off game and there's no points at stake. I couldn't even guess what team Ten Hag is going to play today. It won't be the team that plays for the majority of the season, I doubt anyway. So the damage is just a one-off occasion, but it'll hurt, I imagine. It'll give City the bragging rights briefly, and it'll be another reminder of where they are in comparison to where we are, because I'm sure they'll make changes, but their reserve team could cack on us today, I imagine. And some have kind of observed, look, City haven't done a lot of business. They haven't, but they don't need to, because through cheating, they have been able to build a machine. But it's a very well-oiled machine. It's very efficient. They get players in for reasonable prices. They let players go for big prices. We can see that with Alvarez this summer. And the only threat to City is if they start to lose motivation or Guardiola goes. They're light years ahead of us. They're our rivals because of the location, but they're not our competitors. Our competitors are Tottenham, Newcastle, Chelsea, Villa, possibly even Brighton and Wolves. We finished 8th last season and lost 14 games. I don't see, with what we've done so far, how we're going to improve. this squad is so undercooked and underprepared for the season. Underprepared in terms of time on the grass with the manager and the new coaches, which again we need to consider. There's new coaches there that need time with the players, and underprepared in terms of who we've recruited and who we've let go of. The squad is largely the same, and the Community Shield is a landmark moment in the summer where you need to be further on than that. And all that goes back to the Glazers again. So, in terms of predictions, I think it could be 4-5-6 to City today. And remember, for the FA Cup final, I thought we'd win. I don't feel anywhere near as optimistic today. Just some memories of Charity Shields, Community Shields, for what it's worth. I always felt like it used to be quite a big occasion, and back in the early 90s, I remember we played Liverpool, and back in the day, if you drew, it was shared, and we drew 1-1 with Liverpool in 1990. I remember that again. I remember feeling like it was a big game to start the season, really. 93, we beat Arsenal on penalties. 94, we beat Blackburn. Cantona scored. Ince scored an overhead kick and ran behind the goal to where the United fans were. Again, it felt like a big occasion. It felt like this is our statement that, you know, we're not going away. We're still the big boys. 96, I went with my mate to Wembley against Newcastle, and it was the first time I'd gone to Wembley without my dad. I was 16 or 17. And we went on the coach, and we had a few beers, and we stopped at this service station, and there was a few Geordies in the service station, and all the United fans started singing "Cheer Up Kevin Keegan," and the acoustics of the service station just added to it, and it was just magical. The hairs on the back of my neck standing up just thinking and talking about it. And of course, again, we won 4-0, and it felt like a big statement. And then really late 90s in the 2000s, I think Ferguson started using it as that final warm-up game, really. He always picked his best team if he could, but it didn't feel too big a deal. But a couple still stand out. 2007, we played Chelsea after winning the league back, having not won it since 2003. And we won it on penalties against Chelsea, and the players celebrated like it really meant something. And I think they basically were just giving it to Chelsea a little bit. And again, all the key hitters were in there: Van der Sar, Evra, Ferdinand, Vidic, Carrick, Giggsy, Rooney, etc. Leon, if you're watching, me and you watched that one in Abersock. I don't know if you remember, but that was a great day. And then the other big one that stands out was against City in 2011. We were 2-0 down, we got back to 2-2. And one of the last kicks of the game, Nani broke away, and he had the whole half to himself, and he rounded the keeper and scored, and it was right behind the goals where the United fans were, and it was just a sea of legs and arms, everyone going mental, and I was going nuts watching it. I've actually been to quite a lot of Charity Shields, but we've lost quite a few of them, so that they don't really stand out too fondly in my memory. It's the type of occasion, I think, where if you win, you're buzzing. We've played at Wembley, probably against a good team, and we've won, and we've picked up some silverware, and everyone's happy. If you lose, you go, it's only the Charity Shield, unless you get absolutely annihilated. So it's a bit of a no-lose situation, really, but I do feel today, I was hoping we would be far further on than we are, because I feel like we're so underprepared for this season, and we can't afford to be underprepared. We're not going into it with any momentum, you know, having finished in a decent position last season. We are chronically underprepared, I think, and I'm not sure today's going to be too good, but I will do a match reaction, which could be interesting. And as I said at the start of the video, there's not a lot that a handful of people can do about the Glazers owning our club, unfortunately. But I do want to keep it in the consciousness of people that watch my channel that my view hasn't changed. The importance of getting them out of the club is as high as ever, and we need to keep that alive. We need to keep that present, and they need to go. So I say, as I always do, passionately, unequivocally, emphatically, Glazers out.